Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon to wherever you're joining from, maybe even good evening. And welcome to this webinar today. We are going to give it a few minutes so that we can let a few more people join. And then we will gladly get started with our webinar today about the update on the Green Key criteria and certification process. It is very much a pleasure that so many of you are interested to join this webinar, and I just want to send a big welcome to everyone from our Green Key International team. So I'm gonna give it probably a minute, and then we're gonna get started shortly. I can see the list of participants is still growing, which is great to see. So I'm also gonna say a big welcome to the new ones that just joined. As I just said, we give it a minute and then we will get started with our webinar. All right, so we have a bit of a tight plan today. So I think I'm gonna get started now. Again, I want to say a big welcome to all of you. It's very exciting to see that so many of you are interested to join on this in Copenhagen morning of today. Otherwise, I want to say a good afternoon or good evening from wherever in the world you're joining. I just want to, before we get started, say a few things. This session is being recorded, so for anyone that would like to share this recording afterwards with your colleague, you can do so. We are going to post this on our website. During the whole webinar, you're welcome to ask any questions that you might have in the Q&A session of this webinar, and we will make sure at the end to answer as many of your questions as possible. Before we get started with the main theme of today's webinar, which is really the update on our Green Key criteria and also on our Green Key certification process, I want to give a short introduction of who we are, uh, mainly for those of you that maybe are new to our program and have joined this webinar to learn a little bit more about the Green Key. So for those that already know Green Key, this is a reminder who we are. Please bear with us. There's a few slides that I want to have here as an introduction. Green Key, we are the leading international certification program for tourism establishments. What do we mean with that is we're very much talking about numbers here because we are close to reach the 9,000 mark of certified establishments around the world. We are currently present in more than 90 countries. And besides hotels and hostels, which is really our biggest category of certified establishments, we actually also certify establishments in 5 other categories. For example, campsite and holiday parks, small accommodations, which are all those below a certain amount of bedrooms, attractions, for example, museums and theme parks, restaurants, and conference centers. The entity behind Green Key is the Foundation for Environmental Education. I'm mentioning this here because in the contact of us with us, you might also hear sometimes from FEEV, the Foundation for Environmental Education. It is one of the world's largest environmental education organizations that has been founded in 1981 with over 100 members in more than 80 countries around the world. Our main focus is ESD, so Education for Sustainable Development, and we do that through our 6 programs and together and based on our strategy called Gaia 2030, which prioritizes climate actions and addresses the urgent threats of our times, climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental pollution. So besides Green Key, which is the program that we are going to talk about today, we also have five other programs. One other program in the tourism industry, Blue Flag, that you might have heard about already, which is an award for sustainable beaches and marinas. And then we also have four programs really focusing on the educational sector. So we work on greening curricula through our program EcoSchools, and we also have a program where we do pretty much the same then with EcoSchools, but for higher education, EcoCampus. And then we also have two programs where we integrate sustainability into the classroom, where we use nature as a classroom. That would be learning about forests, and Young Reporters for the Environment is a program that looks into giving youth a voice for the environment. So just a little bit of an overview that Green Key is part of a big organization with several focus points and several programs. When we talk about Green Key, the main reason for our success, one of the main reasons is really the hard work and dedication of all our national operators in more than 55 countries. So one of my first recommendations, if you are interested in joining the Green Key program, is that you have a look on our website. I have added the link to our website here, and see if you are based in a country with national operator. Because our national operator are then the ones that will support you in your process of getting Green Key certified. And if you have been very attentive to my slides, you might wonder, okay, more than 55 countries, but we are present in more than 90 countries. So for all the countries where we don't have a national office, it is actually us from Green Key International at the head office here in Copenhagen that also functions as a national operator. So if you cannot find your country on the list of national operators, please feel free to contact us at greenkey@fi.global. My colleagues are going to drop the email in the chat. Here you can see our current map of certified establishments around the world. Green Key has been founded in Europe, so of course most of our certified establishments are in Europe, but you will also see that, for example, in Mexico we're very strong because that was one of our first national operators joining the program. So we are spreading all around the globe, which is very nice to see. If you compare this to a map a few years ago, you can see that Green Key is really spreading all around the world, and that's, from our perspective, a very beautiful development. If you are still considering whether to join a certification program, you might have asked yourself the question, why? Why should I care about sustainability? Well, from our perspective, there is a very obvious reason that it is the right thing to do. But at the same time, in the tourism industry, we work with people. And the people that we work with are the travelers. And one of the aspects that are probably very important for you is to make sure that you satisfy your customers. Recent studies, and there's more and more studies showing that travelers care. They would like to see that traveling for them does not have a negative impact on the community, but rather a positive impact. So they are actively searching for sustainability choices, for sustainable travel choices. 93% are actually doing that according to the Booking.com report that is being brought out every year again and again. So travelers really care. They have the desire to leave destinations better than they found them. And this is one of the aspects we believe should be or is probably very important for you as a tourism establishment. But then as a next step, you might also wonder, why join a certification program? What are the benefits of actually doing that? Here are a few of the benefits that we from Green Key believe are relevant, but they have also been identified by scholars. So it is, of course, great if you are already doing a lot of sustainability work in your establishment. But a certification will provide you with a third-party assessment that actually proves that what you're saying that you're doing in the establishment is actually also considered the truth based on the criteria that are set by a third-party certification. The Green Key criteria, for example, are built up in a way that you do not just like tick the tick box of conforming with our criteria and you never touch sustainability again. It is really something that is built up as a continuous process. So our guideline criteria are, for example, those that you should be focusing on in every certification period. So every certification period, I'm going to come back to that later, you're required to conform with more and more guideline criteria. So the idea is really that it's a continuous improvement that is happening here. Then in general, it's a global benchmark that you will be able to compare yourself to, because as you could see on our map, certification is really something that is going on all over the world. From our experience, joining a certification program also allows you to create a positive feeling with the stakeholders that are engaged in the process. For example, the staff. Joining a certification is not something that you can just do in a few hours and you don't have to touch it again. It's really a participatory process where all staff members, or at least all departments, need to be involved in this process. And from our experience, it is also something that creates a feeling of pride. We very often get messages from our certified establishments where they send us pictures, how excited they are that they now managed as a team to get the certification. So from our experience, it's really something that creates this positive engagement of different stakeholders. Of course, and I think that is also probably very relevant for you, saving resources such as water, energy, waste saves costs. And in a world that is getting more and more expensive, I don't think it's a very irrelevant. I rather think it's a very relevant point that should be mentioned here as well. And finally, while we are almost reaching the mark of 9,000 certified establishments, actually, it will still create a certain differentiation for you in comparison to other establishments. The market of tourism establishments around the world is huge. So in comparison, there is a very low percentage now that is certified. So there will be this market differentiation still happening for you. And finally, one more slide as an introduction. Why Green Key? What are the unique selling propositions of our program? First of all, the visibility that I was mentioning before is also something that we can say that you will have with Green Key. As a certified establishment, you will be marked as such on major booking platforms such as Booking.com. And that does make a difference for those travelers that are, for example, actively seeking for solutions for travel options for them to travel more sustainably. Green Key, as I mentioned before, is part of the Foundation for Environmental Education, which is a global nonprofit organization that allows us to have a pricing approach that is designed to remain accessible to tourism establishments of different sizes. I mentioned before we have 6 different categories that we work with. Small accommodations is one of them, and the pricing approach is of course different than for big hotels. The possibilities are of course also different. And then from our perspective, if you're at the very beginning of your sustainability journey, the Green Key criteria can be seen as your guiding document or your vision, because you can take the criteria at hand and see it as a step-by-step approach to sustainability. Also, in like feedback that we received from establishments at the beginning is that the way the Green Key criteria are formulated and done is that if you do not know where to get started when it comes to your sustainability journey, you can simply have a look at the criteria and do a status quo analysis and see there might be areas that you are already doing really well, and there might be areas where you still need to work on some improvements. So it can really be seen as this step-by-step approach that you can do. And then finally, one of our strengths, as mentioned before, is really this combination of being an international standard, but combined with national support. A few of our national operators are present today as well, and their hard work and dedication, and also knowledge of the local situation, the local language and differences, is what makes our program so successful. So that was a little bit my introduction to Green Key. And now I'm going to get started with the reason why we are all here today. What has changed in the Green Key criteria and certification process? I'm going to get started with the Green Key criteria. On this slide, you can see the process that has happened in 2025 and 2026. Every 5 years in general, we go through this process of reviewing our criteria in order to make sure that we are still aligned with industry needs, but also with the market standards. Something that might have been considered as a sustainable practice 5 years ago might already be the normality today. Or maybe research shows that maybe after all, it is not so sustainable. So, of course, we need to make sure that we are always up to date with the market standards and the needs of the industry. I'm not going to go into detail with this process, but I just wanted to show you that it has been quite a long process that we were working on to revise our criteria. Besides the fact that it took more than a year to revise this criteria, it was a process where we involved several different experts, stakeholders that are important for the Green Key network, and it included several rounds of public consultations with different stakeholders. There have been 6 working parties based on thematic clusters. So we were looking, for example, in energy and carbon, water and cleaning products, food and beverages and waste. So we had 6 different working parties, and we had more than 60 meetings with those working parties. There were more than 40 Green Key national operators and fee network members involved in the process. We did make sure that we have a global coverage of national operators present because, of course, the standards and the reality of, for example, waste management will be different in a country in Northern Europe than somewhere maybe on an island state. There is different realities that we have to consider as a global program. And that was, on the one hand, the challenge, but on the other hand, is also our strengths that we believe we have a set of criteria that does make a difference in sustainability for tourism establishments worldwide, but it's also implementable by tourism establishments worldwide. So yes, we also consulted more than 70 organizations representing more than 100 experts from hotel chains, product and technical solution providers, NGOs, research institution, civil society organization, auditors, consultants, and public authorities. So we really try to make sure that we have a very broad set of experts that we invited in this process. And what came out of it, what is very important for you now, the final result of this process is, on the one hand, of course, the criteria catalog, which is going to take effect on the 1st of October 2026 and will be valid until the 31st of December 2031. This is where we will restart the process again. We have also worked on the definition of our establishment categories. So we came up with clearer definitions. So it should be very understandable for you as an establishment, what is the category that I belong to. We understand that the tourism industry is very diverse, so there is a lot of mixed categories as well, and the definitions should help you with that, so you understand what category do I even apply for. When in doubt, our Green Key team from the head office, but also all the national operators are here to support you in this process. We also worked on a scope document which basically defines what are the services that are included in the Green Key certification and what are the services that are excluded from the Green Key certification. For example, we were very clear saying that we do not certify a wine production. This is simply not our area of expertise. We are tourism experts, so this is why our main certification happens in those 6 categories and maybe different activities within those 6 categories. So that's defined in the scope document. And finally, we came up with a glossary document which basically provides definitions and explanations of the key terms and concepts used throughout the Green Key criteria catalog. My colleagues are going to drop all the links to these documents in the chat so you can have a look at them after the webinar as well. There is also other support and tools that might be very relevant for you, especially if you have been certified with Green Key already. We actually developed comparative analysis between our previous criteria catalog and the current one, which we will also drop in the chat. And finally, of course, our Green Key team is here to support you when you have any questions about the process, the revised process, or the revised criteria. And of course, the Green Key team is the first one that you will be in contact with when it comes to starting your application process. I just talked about the Green Key definition and how you know which definition you actually belong to. Here you can see a QR code to the Green Key eligibility category and service form. It's a mandatory first step that you will have to do for all Green Key establishments applying for the new criteria. So that applies both for completely new establishments that are present today, but also for the ones that are doing their recertification with Green Key and would like to now start the process with the new criteria. It is a form that collects key operational information, and it also collects information about your specific activities and the category, the Green Key category that you belong to. So feel free to share take a picture or a screenshot of the QR code. It is also available on our website, and of course it will also be available after this webinar. So I want to talk a little bit more about what has actually changed when it comes to the Green Key criteria. First of all, we did a little bit of an update of our Green Key sections, the criteria sections. The reason for that was that we wanted to create a better overview through thematic sections and subsections. So whilst in the past we had 13 criteria section, we have actually now reduced that to 7 main sections that you can see here on the right side, with subsections within those main sections. This is all in the document. You can click through these sections and jump through the different subsections. The main reason was really that we wanted to create a better overview. And when it comes to the guideline criteria, so for those of you that have already been part of the Green Key certification for a while, you might be aware that, and I mentioned that before, the continuous improvement that we are looking for in the previous criteria and in the previous process, the requirement was that every year of certification, you can see it down here, the requirements 2021 until September 26. So there was 1 year of certification period. So once you get the Green Key certificate, you would have been certified for 1 year. And in the first year of certification, you are required, and that's the same for the new standard as well, you're required to mainly focus on the imperative criteria. So you're not required to look at any guideline criteria. In the second year of certification in the previous criteria catalog, you were then required to conform with 5% of guideline criteria, and then always 5% more. Now, the reality here is, if you have done the calculation, is that not much has changed, because our certification period has now changed from 1 year to 2 years. And so that means that the guideline criteria, instead of having to conform with 5% in the second certification period, you are required to conform with 10%. If we think about on a yearly basis, it's the same than before, but because we have changed our certification period, it looks a little bit different in terms of the percentage criteria as well. If you are an establishment with an existing Green Key certificate, you are not required to jump to the next higher percentage for this transition period because we understand that our criteria have changed a little bit and also our processes have changed. So we understand that maybe it is quite a lot of changes that already, or it feels like quite a lot of changes that are already happening. So for the transition period, you do not have to jump to the next higher percentage, but rather you can go to the next lower percentage of guideline criteria. So let's say you are an establishment that is now entering the third year of certification in the old standard. You would need to conform with 10%. So you're going to the next lower percentage. So actually with the new standard, you only need to conform with 0% of guideline criteria. That's a little bit the idea. If you had 15%, the next lower is 10%. I hope I explained it well. Otherwise, if you have a question, drop it in the chat and I can do it afterwards again. We have also worked a little bit on the explanatory notes of our criteria. We have created a harmonized structure of those, which is divided into the relevance of the criterion. So why is this criterion important in terms of environmental or social sustainability impact? Then expectations for implementation. This is really what this part really describes what you have to do as an establishment, what you're expected to do for that particular criterion. And then finally, the audit evidence section is explaining in detail what will be checked during the audit. Is it going to be a visual inspection? Will there be a sampling of rooms that will be checked or reviewed? Is there going to be short interviews, like short questions of staff, maybe to check if they have a specific knowledge about sustainability in your establishment, and so forth. We have also written the criterion in a way so that they follow an ISO standard. So they are written as results and they're divided into distinct, consistent, and easily identifiable sections. So it's another reason why we updated the sections. And of course, it is important that our criteria are also written with specific wording, so it's very clear for you, you have what you have to do. In the criteria catalog, now I'm talking about the international criteria catalog, you will also find little exclamation marks or like info notes, like info icons. Those are the criteria that have a national adaptation. So some of our national operators have decided to, for example, make a criterion stricter in their country because maybe the norm nationally is already high, quite high. So we want to still make a difference in terms of sustainability in those countries. So the national operators, for example, I brought this example of the promotion of sustainable and health-conscious commuting options for staff. Our national operator in Belgium decided to make this criterion imperative. So in the criteria catalog, you will find these little info icons, and they are basically talking about the national adaptation if there is any. If there's no icon, then it means that your establishment simply follows the international standard. And then finally, a little bit more about the changes. So in the comparison file that has been shared in the chat with you, you will see that we have divided changes into minor changes. A lot of the changes that were happening in our criteria was that we did clarifications and improvements in the wordings, it was minor changes in the explanatory notes. So those are classified as minor in the comparison file. There's also moderate changes, which might be changes to the audit process or the audit method. And then there's major changes, for example, if it's a new requirement or if a requirement has been strengthened, for instance, it has changed from from guideline to imperative. My colleagues are going to drop the comparison file in the chat, so you can also have a look at that, especially if you're a recertifying establishment. And then finally, a bit more overall changes that have happened. So we have merged criteria with a similar focus. We have removed criteria where it has been in the process. We have realized that maybe the impact that we were trying to create is limited in terms of, yeah, actually making a change, or also in terms of numbers worldwide, and establishments that actually can implement the criterion worldwide. So those are could be reasons why we removed criteria. We have introduced new criteria. This has been the case in every criteria revision because of the fact that I mentioned before that maybe there are new developments in the industry, and it is important for us to focus on that as well. We have added an increased focus on social sustainability and CSR, so you can find that in the CSR category. And we have also added an increased focus on animal welfare and biodiversity. And finally, what's next in terms of the criteria? I'm gonna try to explain this as clear as possible, but you're welcome to ask us questions afterwards if it's not 100% clear. In general, we recommend that from the 1st of April, new applicants should try to follow or apply right away for the new criteria. The reason for that is that the certification process takes time. So if you want to get started now, and you would like to still get certified with the old criteria, the certification process must be finalized before the 1st of October, or your audit must have happened before the 1st of October, which is where the new criteria take effect. So you might risk that you cannot get certified in time if you, for example, now decide to go for the old criteria. So this is why it's our recommendation. But of course, we are all free people here, so it is your decision to do what you like. It's just that there might be a risk that you do not finish the process. And for reapplicants, during the transition period, so we call the transition period really starting now until all our establishments that are currently certified with us are certified with the new criteria. This is our transition period. You also have two options. You can apply for recertification using the previous Green Key criteria. I do have to highlight here that there is deadlines associated with it, depending on the national operator or country that you're based in. So if you want to go for that option and I want to apply with the previous criteria, reapply with the previous criteria, please make sure to contact your national operator or us at Green Key International right after this webinar so that you can make sure that you are still able to do that with the associated deadlines. Or you also go for the new criteria right away. It will allow you a little bit more time because there is no such thing as a specific deadline until which you have to get certified with the new criteria, except of course the expiry date of your current certificate. As I said, please contact your national operator for more information when it comes to these specific transition deadlines. That was the main part about the criteria. Now I have a few more slides about the updated certification process. So what are the main changes that have happened here? And then the last 15 minutes we would like to use for any questions you might have. So when it comes to the certification process, what has changed? First of all, why are we even updating this? Why are we even updating our certification process? The reason for this is that our intent is to strengthen credibility of our programs and align with the new EU rules on sustainability labels. Of course, that is very important. That's essential for us as a certification program. So what is changing in detail? Before, the national operator in some countries conducted the audit, and the decision has happened with the national jury. Or in other countries, the auditor actually conducted the audit and also the auditor made the decision whether you can be certified. Now, from October 26, worldwide, the change that will happen is that there will be an independent auditor visiting your establishment, and the decision is actually with a certification body, with an independent certification body. What does that mean? That there is a stronger international recognition of our standard. There is more independent and transparent certification. But of course, we have the same Green Key program quality. Green Key has been in the industry for more than 30 years, so our quality has been strong throughout those years, and that is going to stay the same. Again, another thing that stays the same for you is the contact with Green Key and your commitment to sustainability. What really changes for you is that I have it twice on the slide, so I'm not going to go into details. So our goal really here is to make Green Key even more credible, reliable, and recognized worldwide, so that in a few months or years, the certification numbers that we can share in these presentations are even higher. And in the new certification process, there is 4 separate entities. In the past, there was 3 separate entities. So we already had third-party certification with our auditors, particularly. Now there's a 4th entity that is going to be added. So you're, of course, the establishment that conforms with the Green Key criteria. Green Key, we develop and administrate our program, and we provide general support to you as an establishment. The auditor is the one that checks the conformity with the Green Key criteria during the on-site certification audits, and the certification body is then the one that reviews and takes the decision regarding the certification. And the certification body is also the one that is dealing with complaints and appeals. So, for example, if you do not agree with the certification decision taken. So the main steps that are really included here is that there is first a pre-screening and application phase. There's then an on-site certification audit, a review and decision, and surveillance activities during the certification. I'm going to go into detail with those. First step, pre-screening and application phase. So Green Key will first evaluate the eligibility of you as an applicant. We are going to assess your location of the establishment, who is the appropriate contact within the Green Key network, what are the applicable categories. It's a little bit what I talked about before in detail. Any risk that might be associated with the on-site audit could be safety, health risks, and if the establishment is open, there must be, in order for to hold the certificate, no more than 50% of the establishment can be closed for renovation, for example. So those are the things we check in the pre-screening. And then as part of the 1B is then the application phase. So we from Green Key will send information to you regarding the criteria, the process, the application form, also the certification agreement, the costs and the support material that you will get access to once you start the application process. We will then receive the information from you, so the completed application form, the supplementary documents, the signed certification agreement, and the payment of the Green Key levy. So that in itself hasn't changed much. That was pretty much the same in the past. What has changed is that we are simply going to check the readiness of your application. So we will not check the quality of the documents at this point, but the type of documents. For example, if all the energy data that is required as a part of the criterion for energy consumption is there. And then step 3 is the on-site certification audit. So the certification body is the one that will then select an auditor based on which auditor has the needed competences for the audit, which auditor has the needed availability, which auditor has the most economic offer for you. Of course, that is very important for us as well. And also the distance of the auditor between the auditor and the establishment. So then the certification body will also assess if there's a possibility of pooling audits to save time and costs, meaning if 5 establishments in Bali are ready for the audit together, the certification body will make sure that all these are pulled together and audited during one trip of the auditor. This assigned auditor will then contact you as an applicant establishment to organize the time for the on-site audit. The auditor and establishment will receive all the application material, so the audit plan, and the applicant establishment will then pay the auditor costs to the certification body. As a next step, of course, the audit takes place. So the performance of the on-site certification audit. The on-site certification audit includes different steps. First, there's an opening meeting with your staff where there's a bit of information of the agenda of the audit. It is then followed by a document verification, which can also be checked by the auditor before the on-site audit, because they will also have access to the online application form. It is then followed by a visual inspection. Certain criteria can, of course, only be checked visually and not through documents. And the visual inspection also includes interviews. And here we are not talking about 30 minutes interviews, but rather specific questions that are being asked to, for example, staff members in regards to specific Green Key criteria, particularly when the Green Key criterion requires that certain practices are implemented in the day-to-day operations of the staff. And finally, there will be a closing meeting, and the auditor will prepare the audit report using our standard online format. Step 3 is then related to non-conformities. So there's generally three scenarios. First scenario is if there is full conformity with the required criteria, the auditor, will send the report to the certification body for the final review and decision. The second scenario is if there is 1 to 5 non-conformities with the required criteria. In that case, the establishment must rectify the non-conformities and send proof. This was also the same in the previous process. So here in itself, this hasn't changed. And then what has changed is that this information is sent to the certification body for final review and decision. And then if there is non-conformities with more than 5 criteria, you as an establishment must, of course, also rectify the non-conformities and send the proof. A follow-up audit is then organized with the same auditor that has done the audit before. And this information is then sent to the certification body for final review and decision. So you can see what is the same in all scenarios is that the final review and decision is with the certification body. Which is this slide as well. They are defining yes or no to the certification. And then finally, once in case of yes to certification, Green Key actually shares the final decision with you as an establishment, together with the certificate, a copy of the audit report, a copy of the certification agreement. You will also be able to answer a survey regards to your satisfaction with the audit. We will also share information about the requirements during the certification period, which we will talk about in a moment. Information about suspension or withdrawal of the certificate, and also information about your possibility for complaints and appeals. So now the final step is the surveillance activities. So that is a step that has now changed slightly or been added. As I mentioned before, the certification period has been increased from 1 year to 2 years. In between those years, so between 8 to 14 months after the certification, we will actually contact you, and you are required to deliver specific selected criteria, so the evidence for selected criteria. This is an off-site check, so a surveillance activity where you can send these documents online, sorry, and you will then be required to pay the annual Green Key levy. Green Key collects the material and shares it with the certification body, which is then the one that again evaluates the material and takes the final decision whether you can still be certified. So that is the result of the surveillance activities. Full conformity, the certification continues. Non-conformity, your certification is suspended until full conformity is reached. So if you have been with us in the program, you probably know that we had off-site audits in between on-site audits. And this is a little bit similar, but again, what has changed is that the certification body is the one making the final decision. Now I'm almost on my last slide. When it comes to the transition period again, because I think there's quite a lot of establishments here that are actually with us already. So for the transition period, again, this is the period basically starting now until all establishments are certified with the new criteria. If you're, first of all, a first-time applicant, you can simply ensure conformity with the new criteria. There will be an on-site certification audit and the certification body approval, and you will then be certified for 2 years. If you're reapplying establishment, there is 2 options for you. If in this year you are required to do an on-site audit, basically the same model applies than the one for first-time applicant. So you will ensure conformity with the new criteria. You will follow the new guideline criteria model that I have presented in slide 15 earlier below. And you will also be certified for 2 years. If you have ever up for an off-site audit, you will only be required to show conformity with selected criteria as defined in the surveillance activities. So these online checks that I basically explained in the previous slide. There will be a desktop certification assessment, which is then approved by the certification body, and you will be certified for 1 year. And then basically continue with the on-site audit next year. And finally, regarding finance, you will receive a Green Key levy invoice, an annual invoice, as it has been in the past from us at Green Key, and you will receive 1 invoice from the certification body, also annual, which includes the auditor's fee, the travel expenses, and the certification body fee. That is it from my side, and I saw that my team was already busy looking at the questions. I know that there's a lot of questions, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I'm able to see everyone again, and I'm happy to answer any questions that there might be.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Claudia. Yeah, Finn has been really busy answering already a bunch of questions. We have, for instance, will the PowerPoint be available after the presentation? So yes, you have the recording and the PowerPoint available. The new criteria are on our website, so we drop the link both in the Q&A section and in the chat. And then there are already a lot of answers, so please have a look at the Q&A sections to check the questions and answers. And then if you have any additional queries, please then send them as well in the Q&A. So Claudia, we already have some for you. Okay, so we had a question. This year is our 3rd year. The current certification is valid in the end of November. I understand we'll need to apply this year following the new criteria. Will the audit be online or on-site? Thank you.
Thank you, Mano. This was basically my second last slide. It is if you are in the third year, then you would be due for an offsite audit, as I understand it. So that would mean that, right, like for the year November, you will also follow the online version of the audit with the criteria, with selected criteria based on the surveillance activities. There is the option for you, and this very much depends on the country that you're in. Now, I haven't seen which country you're based in, but I recommend for you to also contact your national operators because there is the option for you to decide to get recertified with the old criteria before the deadline of the 1st of October. If you would like to do that, you can try to get certified with the old criteria before this deadline. It does require that you submit your documents quite early now, but if you would prefer to go for the old criteria, there is the possibility to do that. And I recommend you to contact your national operator to ask about this option as well.
Thank you so much. Then we have another question regarding when you were presenting the new certification process. Someone has asked if this applies only to first-timers or if this new process is also for renewal applicants.
Yes, this new process starting with the 1st of October applies to everyone. So this is the new process that will be implemented for the Green Key network as a whole.
Thank you. Then what happens if a hotel is in their third certification period but cannot meet the required percentage of guideline criteria? Would the certification be revoked?
Yes, it is a requirement that you conform with the required percentage of guideline criteria. But please be aware, this was a bit what I tried to explain with the guideline regulations during the transition period. So during the transition period, you're not required to jump to the next higher level of certifications, but the next higher level of guideline criteria, but the next lower level of guideline criteria. So the reason why we did that is because we understand that there is some changes in our criteria, and we want to make sure that you're still able to conform with the requirements that we have set.
Thank you so much, Claudia. My establishment was certified last year in October. Is my next audit this year?
It's a little bit difficult for me to answer because I don't know if your establishment was certified the first time last year in October or if you were certified the second time or third time. You will have an audit, but depending on the year that you're in, you will either have an on-site audit or an off-site audit, a
Yes.
surveillance activity audit. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, the person confirmed it was the first time, so.
Okay, so then you will be due for an on-site audit this year.
Thank you. Now we have another question more related to the scope or eligibility. Can the zoo apply for the Green Key certificate or not?
We have not added a new category of Green Key establishments. We have stick to our 6 categories that we currently work with. We felt like there's already quite a lot of changes in our program, so no, unfortunately, zoos cannot apply for Green Key.
Thank you. Yes, and now we have a question maybe a little bit more specific. I don't know if you want to take it now, but why have we lowered the requirements for instance, the organic food and eco-labeled cleaning products?
We have not lowered the requirements for those. So if you can specify what you mean exactly, because actually either the requirements have stayed the same and we have like strengthened the wording that we have done. We are more clear in our wording, as I mentioned before, also making sure that we follow ISO standards, but we have not lowered the requirements.
Thank you. And then something that you have mentioned and where Martina also dropped the links, but what are the main changes on the criteria?
It will be difficult to answer this in the next 5 minutes. The main changes I have shared on one slide. There is some criteria have been merged together because maybe it has been assessed that they're focusing on quite a similar topic. So then we decided, okay, let's make one criterion out of it. Some criteria have been removed because potentially the impact that we were trying to create was not big enough from our perspective, also in terms of the number of establishments that are possible to implement the criterion. Give you an example: creating a new criterion that focuses on, for example, anything related with snow. Would only be relevant for a specific part of the world. And so we need to make sure that our program is globally relevant. So that is why some criteria have maybe been removed. Other criteria have been added. I mentioned that, for example, we have increased the focus in the social sustainability and CSR section, and also the section related to animal welfare. So these are the main changes. If you're interested in the changes for specific criteria, I really recommend you to have a look at the comparison document.
Thank you. And now a question about the tools. Will all countries be using the same online application form system for the document upload? And is there a third party involved?
Not all countries will use the exact same online application form, but there is a very reduced number of different application forms that are being used by the Green Key countries. So all countries will have an online application system from the 1st of October, and there is specific systems that are being used. It's a specific number of systems. And yes, there's a third party involved in the process or a fourth party even in the process of certifying. It's the slide that I showed about the 4 different entities.
Thank you, Claudia. And then a question from Denmark. Does this mean that in Denmark the Green Key attraction will be discontinued?
No, because attractions is actually part of our Green Key categories.
Thank you. Yes, and then we have a question: are you working in Asian countries as well? Yes, we are. Actually, some of those countries are handled by Green Key International, so please contact us if you need anything.
Exactly. As you could see on the map, we're growing a lot in the Asian continent as well, which is a nice development to see for us.
If you have any more questions, don't hesitate in the Q&A section.
One more.
Yes, we have actually we have a bit of a longer one. Let's take this one then. What would you comment on this case? We're in the process of building a new hotel. We will move into the new hotel in March 2027. We are on our 10th year and due for audit this year. How are we treated in the program? Will this be a special circumstance? Are we going to be audited this year and next year as we move into the new hotel, or this year and not until the 3rd year in the new hotel building or something else? This is a very
Okay.
specific case.
And I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah.
So in general, there's the requirement that your hotel needs to be up and running during the time of the audit. And there is also the requirement that not more than 50% of the hotel can be under renovation in order to actually get the certificate. So I think it will first be important for us to understand where you are at this spectrum. And then, if I understand you correctly, it will be the same hotel, but a new building, as I understand it. So, from our perspective, if it's a completely new hotel, we will have to treat it as a new applicant because of the fact that that maybe the construction side of the hotel will change. The operation side might be the same. So I think it's a very specific case. It's very hard for me to go into detail because I don't understand the whole picture. But again, you're welcome to contact your national operator or us at Green Key International, and we can have a call together and we talk about your case exactly so we can give you a more detailed answer here.
Thank you. And I believe that's it.
that is it. That is perfect. We're right on time. It is 10 o'clock. Thank you so, so much for joining this webinar today. It was a pleasure to see that much engagement. If any questions have been unanswered, please feel free to contact us at greenkey@fi.global, and we will make sure to answer them, or feel free to contact your national operator. If you want to hear me speak about the same thing again, we have another session in the afternoon, and you can listen in again, but I think you should have learned quite a lot in the last hour. And yeah, I'm sure together we will manage, and we will make sure that our program and our network with all of you stays as strong as we are today. So thanks for joining, and I wish you a great day.